Show because I'm Buddy Martin. Glad to be with you another night. We are halfway through, believe it or not, SEC Media Days. Incredible. And we'll have a direct report from there from Rob Browne standing by at his hotel room in Dallas. It was an interesting day. Somebody else didn't have a media credential, but they got in today. That's a funny story. Heard from some really good coaches today, some good comments, and a little bit testy among some of the analysts when they started talking about the importance of rivalries now in the SEC and people still hanging on to Texas, Oklahoma as the rivalry. Anyway, we'll talk about that and other things. Tonight, we also will have a look at the new EA game. Yeah, I don't know how to do it. I'm not sure whether Rob does or not. I know for certain Shane Matthews doesn't know how to do it. We're going to take a shot at it and see if we can learn a little bit about this new EA game, which is, by the way, sweeping the nation by storm by the younger crowd. So, guys, that's another story. And then it's time to get Loren Meadows on. We're going to talk a little bit about football, but also track. The Olympics are starting. A number of Florida athletes are involved in all that, plus Billy Napier Day tomorrow. Yeah, he's going to be on. So stand by. We got that coming up for you right here on the Buddy Martin Show. Tell your friends and neighbors we're here.
Buddy Martin, call him up and tell him what you're thinking, but be kind because he's doing the best he can.
Better, stronger, faster.
Mama says that alligators are ornery because they got all them teeth but no toothbrush.
Hey, what if the voice calls while you're gone?
Take a message.
Bye.
You ready, champ?
I'm ready for this my whole life.
I'm incapable of small talk. But that's why you love me, right?
Kind of intimidating to be in the presence of so many great athletes.
Well, good evening. Welcome. I'm Buddy Martin. It's the Buddy Martin Show coming to you live in from out in Northwest Florida while our colleagues are in Dallas. Far-flung. Rob Browne will join us momentarily. Brendan Martin standing by someplace there. They've been covering the event. Today was another good day, a very good day. A lot of good names, coaches. We heard from one of the newbies today. Yeah, Brent Venables from Oklahoma. And tomorrow we get to hear from the other party. Steve Sarkisian from Texas State tomorrow. So let's go right to our hotline out there where Rob is standing by. I don't know. He's got hot and cold running beer, and I don't know what he's got in his room. He's got doing pretty well. I know that. He seems to be living large, folks. You know what? I don't blame him. I would too if I could. Let's welcome him to the show. Rob Browne. What's up, Rob? How you doing?
Hey, we are having a blast out here at SEC Media Days. I think there's over 1,200 credentialed SEC media personnel here. Biggest they've ever had. Talked to Herb Vincent. Talked to, Mr. Womack. He's been with the SEC now for 47 years, assistant commissioner. But, yeah, they're just blown away. College football is doing great.
Yeah, I heard your comments today, and I also heard your question on national TV. You were. They asked the last question of Josh Heupel.
Yeah.
And I didn't get the video, but I do have the words, and I'll repeat that question and tell you what he said. But what was the level of excitement today, and what did it feel like today there on the floor of the SEC Media Days in Dallas?
Well, there's a ton of excitement, and I asked Josh Heupel about, Tennessee football. You just look, this is year 4 for him. Tennessee brought in $62 million in donations last year. Third in the Sears Cup. Tennessee and Florida right there neck and neck, best overall athletic programs in the country. And winning is there's a lot of synergy there with Tennessee. They win the national championship, the World Series in baseball. Men's basketball got to the Elite Eight this year. I think Kirby Smart. It's not that he's complacent, but it's hard to poke a lot of holes in Georgia. So they kicked it off first. But then there's a lot of other storylines. But the excitement, the intensity level on Media Row, we're doing our show up in our room. I mean, we got our own studio. Brendan, look at that background here in Dallas. And you get downstairs, there's so much pressure. And we got our hot spot. We get everything up here. We've been bringing our guests up here. But in terms of excitement, the Texas and OU people, they're everywhere. They're media people. So they're more ready than we realize to get in this league.
Well, I tell you what, there was got a little testy there today. One good thing about sitting here, you get to watch the whole thing on TV, as I did pretty much the whole day again for day 2, as we get halfway through SEC Media Days, the new All 16, as the commissioner likes to call it. And there was a heated discussion among the panelists there. Dusty Dvorak, who's from the Big 12, of course, played, I believe, at Oklahoma. And he represents pretty much the newbies here. And we had Cole Kubelek, the SEC guy, and they got into breaking down the list of the rivalries. And there was a kind of a heated debate there about it. And a couple of rednecks got going because I don't think Kubelek appreciated Dvorak just sort of kissing off all the other big rivalries in Florida, like Florida, Georgia, and obviously the Iron Bowl, etc. And then Dvorak did a pretty good job of stating unequivocally why he thought Oklahoma, Texas was the number one rivalry. Okay, this is for another day. But, as much as the commissioner tried to keep the cap on it by repeating over and over again yesterday, all 16. What's your focus, Commissioner Sankey? All 16. Also, he didn't want to break out anybody. But, obviously, it's going to take some time for this cohesiveness to develop, to get used to the idea, because no matter what you say, the old saying, they ain't from around here. It's just a different feeling. It's a good feeling to have the league as strong as it is, but a little bit of rankle coming out today in that particular discussion. I also love the story of Kirby Smart coming down. I couldn't believe he'd been there 9 years in Athens. I forgot.
It's hard.
Saying he came in without a credential today. His mentor, of course, yesterday, Nick Saban, got stopped at the door and sent back to his room so he couldn't get in. So, and Saban handled it pretty well. But I thought that was, and of course, Kirby couldn't wait to gig him about that. Well, your question today, as long as you brought it up, I got it down exactly. You said to Heupel, it's not always easy to get a question in there. You did get a good job. They gave you the mic there. You were on national TV. You said, Coach, it's always darkest before dawn. We hear college football is ruining NIL, the portal and everything. And here is Tennessee all of a sudden brought in $62 million in donations last year. It's pretty much idiot-proof college football. There you go. There's that old quote. Season ticket sales. What do you tell people that they're trying to kill the game? And Heupel says, this is the greatest game. To me, this is the greatest game there is. You look at the experience that young people have had from 18 to 22, 23-year-old, 20, their growth as a man, and the game affords that. You learn how to set goals. Learn how to handle success. You learn how to handle failure. You learn how to lead. You learn how to get yourself ready for the husband, the father that you want to be when football ends. And it ends for everybody someday. And he went on to say there's a lot of obstacles within the landscape of college football in today's world that we got to navigate, but there's a lot of really smart people that can help us navigate the right way. I'm excited about the future. Pretty good answer to your question there.
Yeah, and I got to go up and talk to him afterwards. He was on the set, SEC Network up there in the main media room, the ballroom. And he came off and I talked to him, and I actually getting him one of these Tennessee shirts. This is one of our sponsors, the Tennessee shirt, and we're sending him one. He loved it. There's also, by the way, all the Gator fans out here, they've got the Gator Chomp shirt at HewlettandDunn.com in Memphis exclusively. They're sold out of them. They can't keep them in stock, but they're getting more made. It's the Gator Chomp. But
Tell
I
them to give
thought
us
Josh,
something to sell down here on our show.
I
And
know.
we'll put them up for sale. Our people would like to know about it, I'm
They're
sure.
good looking shirts, man. I got to tell you, I talked to Cole Kubelik this afternoon for a little while. He's coming up in Memphis, like August 20th, I think, to the Touchdown Club. Always love it when Cole comes in. Trying to dismiss these SEC rivalries, it's just not good. It's not a good way to come in. It's like coming in the first day before you're the new guy and just trying to stir things up. That's all that is. That's a big rivalry. And Ken Capps and Bo Carter went on the show. We just did on my show, SEC Sidelines, and they're talking about we have rivalries down here, but we're friends with the Alabama people, the Georgia people. We love our schools, but that's like Ken Cap said. I can't see the Texas and OU people gathering under the same tent and hanging out and eating chicken fingers and drinking cold beer and having fun. I said, well, that's how we do it in the SEC. We want to beat each other, but we also are a family, and that's how we roll. And I think I know they will get in line pretty fast, especially after a few big games. They're going to realize that rivalry's big, but like in the old days, Ken said, Texas and OU would play, and then the next week, Texas would have to play Arkansas. Well, now you're going to have to go home and play Georgia or Florida or go on the road to LSU or Auburn or Tennessee or something. Martha and the Vandells had a great song, Nowhere to Run, Nowhere to Hide. That's the new SEC, Sweet 16. Nowhere to run, absolutely nowhere to hide.
Yeah, for sure. Well, listen, it's going to take some sorting out,
Yeah.
Even new families, when there's a new family member, it takes a minute. So now we're all pointing toward tomorrow. It's a really good day today. I must say, by the way, was that Brent Venables or was that Skip Bayless? It looked like Skip Bayless to me. He acquitted himself pretty well. I listened to his whole talk. He brought a lot of fire. He said some good things, and it sounds like he's pretty well buttoned up. So Kirby Smart, Brent Venables, Josh Heupel, and Eli Drinkwitz, and what we're on today. I don't know if you heard much of them or not. I heard most all of them. I did. I thought got a kick out of what Kirby said, but being interviewed by Nick Saban, I feel like I'm giving answers to Darth Vader, he said. Yeah.
I like that.
And also, of course, praised him and said how much he appreciated him. The thing about what was the biggest wrinkle to me was the debate between Kubelik and Dusty DeVorker, et cetera, about the big. This is going to carry over. This is some, shall we say, bad blood that's not going to wash down real easy. So it'll take a minute. We'll see how that all works out. Now, the other thing that we haven't talked about is the new EA game. I read some of the rankings by EA of the Gator players yesterday, and I don't know much about it. And I don't think most people your age or mine do. I mean, when I grew up, there was a board game you played.
Yeah.
The whole was a 10 board, and it used to shake, and the players would go all over. And that was our version of video game. But this EA Sports this EA game has really got a lot of people talking, and the younger people are all over it. We've got Kyle standing by. He's going to come in and explain to us about that. But first, I want you to sum up what you heard and thought today and how you feel about things after 2 days in Dallas.
Well, first thing Kirby Smart said was when he was driving from the airport to the downtown Omni here for media days, he was going, how do they keep that game on the shelf in the stores? And all the Georgia players, Malachi Starks and Carson Beck, they were laughing at him. He's like, they don't have that in the store. But look, I think I did not see Cole Kubelik and Dusty Dvorak having their debate. But
they had a little heated debate,
that's what's going to be fun. Brent Venables walked right up on Media Row. I mean, we have brought on, we have been just stacking them, the new guests for the show. I mean, meeting some just absolutely awesome people that are going to start coming on the show with us. That's what I do at Media Days. I hear those coaches. I go in there, but I make connections, relationships for us. Brent Venables, the first coach I've seen at media days on Media Row that walked up for an interview and take off his cowboy hat, and he had on a bad looking pair of boots. They looked good. But I think he knows the SEC. I mean, every time there was an opening for the defensive coordinator position at Auburn and most schools, he was at or near the top of the list. He spent 10 years with Dabo at Clemson. He's ready for this. Steve Sarkisian, he knows it. I just think that, again, you got over 1,200 credentialed media personnel. The interest just keeps growing. That kind of talk between Dusty Dvorak and Cole Kubelik, that's good. That's good for college football. You want debate. You want interest and stuff like that. Nope, no punches were thrown. I mean, that's fun stuff. But Florida, Georgia, I mean, there are sacred rivalries. That's a great
They weren't
rivalry.
kidding around. They were kind of throwing. They were throwing shade at each other pretty good. And it was
I mean, yeah, that's what it sounds like. But I know the Texas people. They are what Ken Capps said, who's a Longhorn Football Writers Association of America. He said, Texas get a couple of times a year. They'll get excited. He goes, night football in Austin, usually it's almost subdued. He said the LSU game in 2019, the Southern Cal game a few years before that. Now you're going to have to do that, but it's going on the road. Yeah, they did it once last year in Tuscaloosa and beat Alabama. Try doing that 2 or 3 out of a 4-week cycle. That's what people – every coach we talk to, we know it, you know it, the American people know it. It's the grind. Thank you, sir. May I have another? Week after week after week. That's why I don't know if Billy Napier is the answer at Florida. I don't know. I mean, they're going to play the schedule. But he's got to show this year.
About that in a minute. Napier comes on tomorrow. We'll discuss that with Kyle as well. But, a lot of good stuff. It sounds like you've been quite active.
Yeah.
Let me do this. Let me do a quick thank you to our sponsor, and we'll bring in Kyle. We'll talk about the EA game, and we'll talk a little about Napier. What do we expect him to be asked? How will he be received? His team is not being given that much of a chance. They'll end up being picked. They were picked 12th by the group of USA Today papers out of 16. That sounds probably about right. Many, or maybe not. We'll see. But right now, let me tell you about. I'll let you take a little break there real quick, and you'll clear up whatever you got caught hacking. I know I've got it too. It'll come right back to you. And we've got standing by. We've got Kyle Curtis. While I tell you about my friends, great sponsor, Meldon Law, texted back and forth with Jeffrey yesterday. What time zone are you in, Jeffrey? Well, he said, I'm 6 hours earlier than you. He's somewhere over in Europe. He's taking a long vacation, well-deserved, and, of course, trying to keep up with what's going on back here in Gainesville, as he always does. Meldon Law, of course, is well known for its loyalty as Florida Gator fans, also known for their excellent work in law, which is why they're official law partner, injury law firm partner of the Florida Gators. They want you to know, if you'd like a review of the case that you may have pending with some of their attorney, you're welcome to a second opinion. Give them a call at Meldon Law. They will be glad to give you some help and guide you about that. They also want you to know they're not going to back down on your behalf. They've been practicing law for a long time. They've got a new office now in Williston, Ocala, Gainesville, and Lake City. So if you need an attorney, you can get a good one there at Meldon Law. They won't farm you out to somebody who's in the hinterlands who's a rental lawyer. Meldon Law won't back down. Neither will these guys. Bring back, and this guy right here who's going to explain to us old guys, what this EA game is. Hello there, Kyle. How you doing?
How are you guys doing?
Good.
All right. Well, tell us about it. I heard a little bit about it today, and I'm trying to study up on it. The EA game is out. I understand there are numerous versions of it, but for dummies like me and Rob and I, you'll have to explain. There's a funny comment that Kirby made today when he told his son, boy, How do they keep those things in the stores? I said, Dad, they don't have them in the stores. Well, how do you get them? I mean, this is our generation. People are saying, "Wait a minute, how do you get the game?" So you got one, I think, and I guess you played it. Tell us how much it costs, where you got it, and tell us what you know about it, Kyle.
Yeah. So obviously, it's kind of taken the whole social media, especially college football, by storm. I saw Gator football get in the facility today. Had a little pizza party. They were all playing today, so that was a good little break. But yeah, no, this game is it's been 10 years in the making. So kind of ever since the players wanted to start getting paid and name, image, and likeness, that kind of opened the door for bringing the game back. And they announced it, I think, a year and a half ago that they were going to revamp the game up. So really built up the anticipation. And, there's been social media accounts everywhere kind of speculating leading up to the game. So I went out, I got myself a PlayStation, and then you have to buy the game on top of that. So the game itself,
Okay.
you have to buy.
How much does that set you back?
Yeah, no, it was definitely an investment. It was an investment. I think the PlayStation, you can get a bunch of different games on there. So, and you can watch Netflix. It's a all-in-one type thing.
Yeah.
So that was $400, and then
Ooh.
I know it's an investment. It's an investment, and then the game itself was 80. So all together, but like I said,
have that. Right? PlayStation to play it, do you?
You have to have a PlayStation. You have to have a PlayStation.
Oh,
yeah. Yeah. So you
Rob,
have to have the PlayStation.
Rob, you have one?
My mom won't let me buy one. Said it's too expensive.
No. Yeah.
I don't even know how to play it.
So walk us through. Did you have to pick your play? There's 3 levels, obviously several levels.
I know. This is getting me excited.
Which one did you get?
So I got the PlayStation 5.
What game did you get though?
I got College Football 25 is the name of the game. And then within the game, there's so many different game modes and stuff like that you can choose. So for example, they have a game mode called Road to Glory. That's my favorite one. You start out as a recruit. You can choose what star recruit you want to be. So for example, I chose a 3-star recruit. And then you kind of work your way up. You go to practice. You can sign NIL deals. You communicate with the coaches. And then you work your way up. And hopefully one day I'll be able to transfer to Florida. Florida didn't offer me a scholarship right out of high school. So might have to prove my stripes at a smaller school.
How about a walk-on?
I wanted to get some playing time so I could prove my stripes. But yeah, no, there's a lot of different, the attention to detail in the game is one of the best parts. I mean, we played a game at UCF, and you could see the SpaceX rocket ship go off in the background from, and it's just the smallest attention to details. And for like in the swamp, you see the players going out and touching the gator head, coming out of the locker room. And then after the third quarter, everyone holds up their flashlights like for Tom Petty. So, just playing the game, and it gives me goosebumps every time, because like I said, that was like my childhood, sitting there coming to my friend's place and playing NCAA 14, which had Denard Robinson on the front cover. But so it's been really fun, and it's also been cool to kind of see all the players in the game and then go on social media and kind of banter back and forth at each other. And stuff, and talk about their ratings or whatever it may be. So yeah, that's kind of the rundown on it, but it's a lot of fun, and a lot of people, I would say, and the 20 to 30 year olds, this is kind of what they grew up playing on, especially if you were a college football fan growing up.
So several questions. Dan Bunn says, Kyle, did you buy the $150 version?
So yes, Mr. Bond, the $150 version, I think you get college football and Madden, but I did get the deluxe version, so it was like $90, so I could get it like 3 days early. So I got it a little bit earlier for like $5 extra.
Okay.
But I like playing the college football game. Yeah.
Well, it's going to be fun. Figure it out. It's way over mine and Rob's head. So
I wrote up a little article talking about it, so I'll get that posted tonight. And it's got snapshots of walking through the Gators locker room. I think the opening day yesterday, I have it in my article, but there was 540,000 people online at one point, all looking for a game. So it's super. I think they had over $40 million made yesterday just in downloads from the game. So yeah, it's super popular. And
how good your team's going to be. So I know Nick Delatorre posted that he had played the game and that at one point he had Florida up to number 8 in the nation. Whatever that means.
So you can also like be a head coach of a team. So say I wanted to be the head coach of Florida, I would be a head coach, and it simulates like through season. So you can finish a season and then you go into the off season, and it goes as down to the detail as you can send Instagram DMs to a recruit while recruiting people and doing stuff like that. So he probably played like 3 or 4 seasons and was able to get, DJ Lagway to being a senior and nice and veteran. So but I'll definitely bring a trophy to Florida.
All right, let's talk a little ball. Rob tomorrow. He's got Billy Napier. He's in Dallas. I know we talked about the questions on the table. What do you think the storyline is going to be, besides the obvious, Kyle, and to see what kind of questions that although it may be hard tomorrow to get a question in, that Rob might get into Billy Napier tomorrow. What you're thinking about the number one question? What's the first question will be asked Billy Napier?
Yeah, I the best question, but I don't know. It's always hard with Napier because he answers in a good way, but the most vague way, kind of at the same time, where you never walk away completely satisfied. I would assume that it's going to be kind of revolving around how Graham Mertz has evolved during this offseason, playing 1 year in the SEC, and kind of what that next step is going to be like, because he did play good last year. But how does he translate his play into wins on the field? So I think that's probably going to be the number one takeaway. And then obviously you're going to have your Flyers asking about how Lagway is performing. What's that going to be like? Kind of just with how, his face is and his off season. So, but I think that it's really going to be about the transformation of Graham Mertz and, what next steps has he taken to not only to make himself better, but make the team better to be able to, be successful and get wins in the win column.
Right, Rob, you're pretty good now. You're getting pretty knowledgeable of these teams. I've heard your questions and your thinking. You're starting to know a lot about other teams. You know a little bit about Florida. If you get the microphone tomorrow with Billy Napier, what would you like to ask him, Rob?
Just in your mind, the first 7 games, you're going to break it down to that's one season, and then there's that last 5, that gauntlet, where you're playing Texas, Georgia, LSU, Ole Miss, and Florida State. And how important is it for the mindset to keep everybody on the same page to get off to a great start? And because, going in the last 5 games, everybody's thinking these teams are great. They've got logo fever, though. And what are you doing to get inside those heads to get them out of their comfort zone and say, look, I don't care what everybody else says about us. It's what we are. If you listen to the great Stoics, Emperor Marcus Aurelius, who said, you will become what your thoughts are. And if you think that you're no good, that's what you'll be. And I think Florida, they're still like 9th on the blue chip index, 9th most talented roster in the country, 63%, 4 and 5 stars. So if I'm a Gator fan, I don't give a damn what everybody's saying about the team. I start looking and getting involved, and I'd ask Billy Napier, say, look, you've got some talent, and you've got real competition, it looks like, in the quarterback room. I mean, what's not to like?
Well, and then we know what kind of questions aren't likely to be answered. And obviously, he's not going to answer too many questions about the quality. He'll say Graham Mercer's team and etc. And
Yeah.
I get it. It should be, by the way, at this point in time. Will Lagway play? And then, of course, we all know what the real story is, Kyle. It's the defense. And I think we can understand. We think now they've got some help in the safety position. They're better. Uh, their linebacker looks better. Their speed's better. Defensively, I'm not saying they're going to be a great defensive team, but gentlemen, if they just had 5 or 6 stops last year, think the difference what that could make in the difference and some of the stupid mistakes. So yet they got to play a tough schedule. So there's 2 things: it's the schedule and how well you play. And we all know that Florida has to make the first 5 games or they're dead in the water. So what do you think? Kyle, how you feeling about anything different about the Gators? You have any thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, I remember last year, right around this time, the main storyline for Florida was kind of this new freshman class. How are these freshmen going to impact right away? Stuff like that. And now I think what we're looking at, especially on the defensive side, is the transfer portal additions. You got Osei Turner, the Washington safety, and then you also have Pup Howard, a South Carolina guy who was an absolute stud for them last year. And I think that we're going to have these freshmen kind of a lot more, experienced on the big stage. You got LJ McCray on the defensive line. You got experience. You got Jason Marshall coming back, with another year under his belt, a lot of experience there. So I don't know. I think that the experience and the additions on the transfer portal, especially, starters on the defensive side, is kind of the storyline this year versus, last year we were bringing in, Billy's kind of first big time recruiting class. We're talking about freshmen that are going to be able to impact right away, which is a good thing for a team that's kind of was in the rebuilding process. But kind of what, as Rob was saying, it's time to, get some results on the field.
Yeah, for sure. Well, you had a good day today with coaches. Tomorrow, Rob, you get Kalen DeBoer, Alabama's new coach, which will be interesting.
Yeah.
Mississippi State, you have Jeff Lebby, a lot of new names to remember. Billy Napier goes off at 150, which is, I guess that's, the 150, which should be 250 our time here, I believe. And they've got Graham Mertz, Shamar James, Montreal Johnson, and finally Steve Sarkisian goes at 320. So a pretty full day there tomorrow, Rob.
Oh, I mean, start off with Alabama, and it's going to be fun to watch Nick Saban sitting in the back of the room on the SEC Network set with Laura Rutledge, listening to all the questions to Kalen DeBoer, and how many people are going to want to ask Coach Saban. Texas, what's it going to be like? One thing you don't see out here is the fans, like you see at the Winfrey and Hoover or in Atlanta or Nashville of all the schools. I saw a decent number of about 15 Tennessee fans, but they were family members of the players that came to media days. But you're not seeing the masses of people, that scene from One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest. I mean, the guy with the ring on his head that wears the cape for Alabama, and some of these people that you wonder where they come from. They're not here. And Dallas is a big city. But, God, tomorrow, Kalen DeBoer, the questions they're going to be asked him, he's 104 and 12. That's going to be fun. Texas, Mississippi State, golly, you start looking at who all is going to be here. Florida, Billy Napier. And like Kyle said, I mean, I'd be breaking it down to the first 7 and the last 5 if I'm Billy Napier. And, yeah, it's just a given. If you're not strong and deep on that front 7 on defense, you're not going to get above 500. That's just the elite teams have those players. And, Kyle talked about DJ Lagway. We know the quarterback situation, but it's the defensive line. How many of the freshmen were there in the spring and they're going to have an impact? If those guys show up, that changes things. But what you can't, I mean, we're hearing about how good Miami is. Mario Cristobal is a 500 coach. What is everybody waiting on with this guy? Florida, y'all tell me, how big is the Miami game? Y'all hate them. They hate you. And you close out with Florida State. Y'all hate them. They hate you. You beat Miami, that locker room, the mentality of everybody is totally different.
We had a discussion about that several times on Shane Matthews' show, and Shane has called it the biggest opening game he can remember. I'm not 100% on that. I've seen a lot of opening games. Yeah. I get where he's coming from, that obviously because of two programs trying to get back on track and two state teams are kind of a rival, not really, don't play enough. And that because of Cristobal, who's got a big rep, he's not been successful, and Billy has it, and he thinks it's a crucial game. He says it might be the most important game Florida's played forever. And I said, you know what? Your coach, Steve Spurrier, would tell you that's not true. Because he would tell you, even if they lost that, they still have a chance in the SEC. It's not an SEC team. Kyle, what do you think?
I think the main thing that you said there is that we don't play each other enough, but I think that the hatred is kind of still there, just especially with the history of both programs. I don't know if I would put them on the same tier as the Florida State or Georgia rivalry wise, but I think that it would go just as far for the rest of our season if we do win that game. I would say that in my lifetime, at least, this is probably the biggest opening week game that I can remember. But yeah, I mean, I think that especially opening week, being able to kick off your season with a massive win against an in-state rivalry where both fan bases think that they're going to win, especially when everyone's both rebuilding as well. I think it's going to be a really fun environment.
Rob, Dan Bond is there in Dallas. He sent a message earlier saying, what's the best time of day to arrive? He's just going to be a spectator. He says he was there today, and he says a spectator. He says, I'll be decked out tomorrow. Look out. He's wearing his gear stuff. And so the other thing is that he says, hold on, I lost my place here. Yeah, he wanted to know what's the best time. He says, I was shocked how few fans were in the lobby. Now, when I was in Birmingham, that was always pretty full.
Yeah.
Especially Alabama Day. But there's a lot of this is a different location. You don't get the Alabama crowd. So what's it look like in the lobby down there? What's a good time to go?
Well, I mean, it's just not crowded. There's, like I said, I saw about 15 Tennessee fans, but they were family members of the players they brought out here for media days. Other than that, I saw 4 or 5 Oklahoma fans. It's totally different. People can say Dallas is a pro town. It is. Mavericks, Cowboys, SMU's about 10 minutes away. You see the battle that they're facing. They're trying to build a brand that 40 years ago was special. Death penalty killed that. But I think any time is a good time. But you can't come upstairs. You can't come up the escalators because the credential police will get you. I mean, they've already denied Nick Saban. They have denied Kirby Smart. I think you said he didn't. I didn't know he didn't have his credentials.
Kirby Smart got in.
Yeah, he got in.
Here's the thing about that story. So we say good evening to Lauren. What's funny is that Nick Saban, the GOAT, right? The guy most famous coach, could not get past the media guard, and they made him go back up and get his credential, media credential. It's kind of funny because how many times Saban's kicked around the media guys, So he had to go back and get his media credential to get in. Today, Kirby Smart walked in without a credential and proudly said to Nick, they didn't check my credentials. So that hurt a little bit, right?
Yeah, but, I mean, Coach Bryant didn't get into the Liberty Bowl in Memphis in 76. That old curmudgeon said, nope, not getting in. He said, well, I'm the coach. He said, you're not getting in. And he had to get his credentials. So,
that's a lot of stories.
The credential police are good.
Yeah. So Lauren and Rob, I know you're going to get out of here pretty quick, but
I'm good.
you good? Okay, good.
Yeah.
We got Billy tomorrow, and we know what some of the obvious questions are. But an event like that, and by the way, Rob was able to get a good question today to Heupel, which is it's hard to get the microphone when you got 1,200 guys there, but you get it when you get them in. Still, you have to, it's hard to get a question in. If you have the opportunity, Lauren, tomorrow to ask Billy a question, and you thought you have a chance of getting an answer, remember you have to ask it just right. What would be your question?
I would just say, Coach, where do you feel like you are in year 3? You talked about, you have everything in place, but where is the Florida program as Billy Napier sees it in year 3? When you got off that bus and chomped a couple years ago, where are you now? And I think that would lead to, an open-ended discussion of what his thoughts are on his football team, and may lead you to say where he feels like they are. And that's kind of where I would go, just to kind of break the ice and, get that going. And so he's made it very clear that he feels like he has all his processes in place. So, is this the year that you take a step?
Well, you probably haven't had a chance to watch much of it on TV. I know you travel around. I've watched it pretty closely the last 2 days. Nick Saban has been a superstar. He is really,
I believe it.
better than I can even imagine, because he's thorough and he's not messing around. He would evade the answers as a coach. Asked him today, I believe, Rob, who thought would win, but play for the title. He said Texas and Georgia. Spit it right out, and so he hasn't been dodging. He had some very good points he made too. Some really good answers, thoughtful answers, and much better than I thought. He is going to be a terrific host on game day, I think.
Starting to make it. I mean, you talk about somebody who, anybody that's been around Nick Saban outside of football and outside the camera say he's a great guy, very humorous, even down to earth at times. And Rob can echo that. He's tight with the enemy, but I think that's you talk about a guy. I mean, he's perfect for that, and just so revered that he'll be star in the making for sure.
Yeah, for sure. All right, so Rob, has anything? And I thought Saban had a good question. They asked him yesterday, "What would be your first question?" And he'd ask him, "What has surprised you about your team?" It's a very good question. If the coaches would tell you, they'd tell him. I thought it was very good. So I don't know how much you watched, but I think the questioning has been about like it always is. There's been some ho-hums, dodged answers, but for the most part, probably better than average. I think the newness of it and having the new people, like having today Brent Venables and tomorrow having a Sarkisian, has added to it, I think. And it's the element of surprise, I think. Rob, what have you found to be the most interesting thing you've heard and seen?
Really, really not much. We're calling it the Jimmy Sextonization of the college football coaches. They're all tight-lipped, buttoned up, don't want to say anything. They don't want to put anything out there that can be used against them. I mean, what Kirby Smart really talked about was just his culture of his program, the buy-in of a guy like Carson Beck in his 4th year out of Jacksonville. He could have gone a lot of places, but he hung in there. He also
that was
said,
a very good point, I think. That was an excellent point. It was the question that was asked of him. He was responding to the question, and he had a very good point that, that there's just some things he said the continuation, it's not just having come to a school for a year or two, but, and this, Lauren, from coaching, when you got them year 3 and 4, now you do the finer points. They learn the finer points of the game under the same system. Mm-hmm. They become different athletes, don't they, Loren?
Well, absolutely. I mean, you especially at the quarterback position. I mean, it's just so much information. I mean, you have no clue, and then just the way you got to carry yourself, even if you are not an extrovert naturally, you almost have to become one, and you settle in to really what is the throne of the team. You are the king, and for somebody like Carson Beck, you know, not only becoming the starting quarterback for the top team in the country, but also following Stetson Bennett, a legend, and somebody who will never ever have to worry about buying food in Athens again. So you look at Carson Beck, and just the way that you settle in, and now really at his second year with the controls. Now that offensive coordinator is asking you, hey, what do you like? What do you not like? What do you want us to throw out? What give me your top 10 runs, audibles, pass, and you really have that control. And I think that's I mean, Kirby Smart is I'm sure doing his due diligence by Carson Beck, allowing him to kind of have some say. But same thing with Graham Mertz and Billy. I'm sure that there's a lot of things that'll be in play that Graham Mertz has asked for, because at this juncture in his career, he's asked for it. So as you talk about coaching and things like that, it's really nice to have that guy who is an extension of what you want to do philosophically on the field. And Carson Beck definitely is that, and has settled in nice. And you don't hear much from him, which is, he lets his play do the talking. You don't see a lot of Carson Beck run around on Instagram and some of those other things. And I think that's a credit to, the way anytime. I'm not going to give the program, that we're speaking of too much, but it just speaks to the level of play of those type of players that come from those type of programs. So
let me just jump in here and do this commercial read. And thank you to our friends at Titan MRI. In just a minute, we'll come back. I want to talk about quarterbacks. I think I heard today, Rob, that there are Florida plays 8 returning quarterbacks, I believe, which makes a difference. But Saban had a good point to that too. Let me tell you about Titan MRI, speaking of good points. Here's a terrific opportunity for you. If you have to get an MRI, nobody likes to go do that, but we have to. Some things you don't like first of all, it's hard to get off work to go do it. Secondly, sometimes you're uncomfortable in some of these MRIs. When you go in there, you feel crowded, you're claustrophobic. And sometimes you don't have insurance. So what do? Well, here's the thing about Titan. They can solve those problems for you. First of all, have you ever heard of this before? They will custom make an appointment for you. If you can't go during the weekday, they'll make one for the weekend and nights. Call them up and ask Titan MRI, and they will make you a special appointment. Secondly, if you don't have insurance, they will take cash or card, and it's not overwhelmingly expensive. And so they want you to know. And then also, they have a special bore on their cameras for the MRI that makes it less invasive for you, and you wouldn't get claustrophobia. So check it out. If you need an MRI, go check them, TitanMRI.com. 8 returning quarterbacks, guys. I think Florida plays a lot of them. I know we all know it's important to get that quarterback for that second year. Somebody said today was a quarterback-rich SEC. I'm not sure of that. Loren, what do you think?
Yeah, I mean, I think that, you look at, you talk about, everybody from Quinn Ewers to Carson Beck to Jalen Milroe to Graham Mertz to Quinn Ewers to, I know I'm losing some. Jackson Arnold.
Brady Cook,
Jackson Arnold, who is, I think, is a young buck, but it's coming along. I would say that it is pretty thorough. I think that, the quarterback position has just been revolutionized in the last 10 years. And you look at the SEC, the way that they've evolved as a conference, as a whole, the evolution of offensive football in the SEC, where now your most explosive offenses and fast paced are in the SEC. I would agree. I think that, and then even, Brock Vandagriff, there's no reason to think that Vandagriff won't be fairly successful at Kentucky, because they're going to protect him and they're going to run the football, and that's always nice to have in your back pocket. And I mean, it's just so many guys out there. I really think that this is going to be interesting. It's going to be a fun. It's going to be a fun year for offensive football. There's going to be some dudes out there. You got guys pulling the trigger, and you got a lot of guys on the perimeter. Some really gifted young men. So yeah, I would agree. I think it is very, very, very talent rich, very quarterback loaded this season.
They got two great players in Como. Robert, do you agree with that?
Yeah, I do. And, some quarterbacks come into this league like Spencer Rattler, who was projected at one time as the number 1 pick in the draft, and he comes to South Carolina and is okay and went in the 6th or 7th round, but he'll probably make an NFL roster. But the SEC will hurt your feelings in a hurry, and that's what this league does. And it's the speed, it's the size, and the combination of the size and the speed, the impact hits. Like Ben Troop says, it's a collision league. You almost need car insurance to play in this league if you're a player, because you get a lot of dents and bruises and broken windshields. I really think that if you look at Florida's talent and you look at, their roster on the blue chip index is better than Tennessee's. Now, I know the schedule's a big part of what everybody's concerned about with Florida, but for Billy Napier, if the Gators have got to show fight in every game, and I think that's going to be a storyline tomorrow. Is what will be a good year that you'll be happy with, that'll also satisfy Gator fans. Give me a couple of key things that you say this has to happen. And again, logo fever, man, it's contagious this time of year. Everybody's looking at the schedule and not looking at the underlying stories. If you go back to, Stetson Bennett the 4th, he was 5th on the depth chart. He's worked his way up. I think that the story, I think Luther Burden's the best player in the league at Missouri. I got to ask him.
I wouldn't disagree with that. I think you're probably right.
And I said, Luther, you had 1,212 yards receiving last year, 9 touchdowns. I said over 700 of your receiving yards came after contact. Yak said, do you take a lot of pride in being the most physical receiver? And he goes, yes, sir. He said, I do. And I'm telling you, this league, the motto ought to be nowhere to run, nowhere to hide.
Yeah.
That's it. That's why Florida fans are looking at that schedule. You think Georgia fans are not, near to panic? They have to play Clemson in Atlanta. They got to play at Alabama, at Ole Miss, at Georgia. At Texas. That's tough. Texas is hosting Florida and Georgia. There's no way they're winning both of those games. They might lose them both. Welcome to what we're used to. Thank you, sir. May I have another?
And I forgot about Nussmeier at LSU too.
Yeah.
Throw that one in there too.
Yeah.
Today Saban made a point to say, he brought up the quarterbacks. He said, there's 3 other teams and 3 other quarterbacks you guys haven't mentioned, and they're all new, and he's right. Somebody may jump out of there we didn't even thought of,
Mm-hmm. Yep.
And that's the thing. These quarterbacks are so advanced now. They're so skilled after going to camps and coming early to school and being coached up. A guy can come in the first year and make a big difference. It could be somebody out there that we haven't even mentioned that may have the big week, big year, right?
Well, buddy, you look at now, even the amount of, like I said, the amount of information that they're even getting in high school. Now, because it's a copycat business. So now, they're running a lot of different concepts that they're used to even before they step on campus, because like you said, they're going to 7-on-7 camps. They're learning things. Then they, a lot of college coaches, a lot of friends of mine are doing a lot of complex stuff with these guys that can really take in a lot of information. And it just, and like you mentioned Luther Burden, it used to be where the receiver position was kind of, it was just out there, but it's a street fight out there on the edges now. And between the hash and the numbers, they get after it, man. Those kids are strong, they're physical, they're big, they're fast. And I mean, the matchups between slots and safeties and receivers and corners. I mean, it's rough out there, and you better buckle up in this league. Like I said, with the speed. I mean, guys 6'2", 210 pounds, running 4.5, 4.4, just downhill, and they're cutting you when they're running the ball and just doing all kind of things. It's just a different. It's exciting, the type of football that we're seeing right now, and. Like Brent Venables said, they're running right head first into the SEC. You ain't got no choice. You really don't have no choice. If you ain't ready to roll, then go ahead, bro.
No, I was just going to say along the line, you just said it. How often do you see a wide receiver in the SEC run past a defensive back? And if you got a good pass rush, that slows things down even more. Just start keeping track of some statistics because they'll tell you everything. These defensive backs in this league. Look at their resumes, and I think another thing, what you hear among all these quarterbacks. I was standing there with Jackson Dart yesterday, talking to him with people. They all, damn near every one of them, has been at the Manning passing camp. There's a lot of they all know each other. There's a lot of groupthink.
True.
And so that's something to keep an eye on. And a lot of these guys, they're clones. So the ones that are different are going to be better. And I tell you, I cannot remember ever when special teams are going to matter more. Because, Missouri won 2 games last year on walk-off field goals. One of them was a 61-yarder to beat Kansas State. Gators have got a damn good kicker. Their punter averaged 48.6 yards. That flips the field.
There's some games with those guys. What they have to do.
I'm just looking for
to get that kicker in on the field game. You got to be able to defense at the end of the game to get the ball back to get the field goal, and that's what they haven't been able to do. So, all right, in the remaining time we got, guys, Lauren, give yourself a little less headroom, and I'll come back to you. And is
that better? There you go.
Better. And here's what I want you to do. Here's what is
I
Billy.
sit back in my chair. Sorry, I think I'm on Meet the Press or something, laying back.
Well, Shane Matthews sits in the recliner and just like.
He's got that pen. Yeah, he's got that view.
Yeah, guys, give me 60 to 75 seconds on what does Billy Napier have to do when he walks off that stage tomorrow to feel good about where he is? What's the message he has to send to the media? Rob, you go first.
He's got to come out and say, look, we know more about that schedule than anybody. And we're not going to let it live in our head. It's not going to own us. We're the only ones who can determine our success or failure. So we're going to find excuses to win. And we've got offense, defense, special teams. I'm telling you right now, Ron Roberts last year took, the island of misfit toys, the Auburn defense last year, and they didn't have much help from the offense. And they were in that Georgia game to the last drive, the Alabama game to the last drive. This Ron Roberts knows how to blow up RPO offenses. Y'all talk about the defense. I'd be saying, how important is Ron Roberts? But he's just got to convince people that we're not scared. That's the number one thing he's got to do. And then it's a good day, and that he's not scared. Because the hot seat questions, throw them out the window. Try losing one game, you're on the hot seat.
They don't make money, whatever happened to that saying, right?
Yeah. He's going to have plenty of money either way.
Yeah. All right, good job. All right, Coach Meadows, what you got? What's he have to do to walk off that stage to feel good?
I think you put yourself in a position to, handle the miscues. You own it, and you basically say 2024 is a different year. It's a new year. We're a year older. We're better. and we know that mistakes have been made as a team, and we look to correct those. I mean, we are looking forward to this gauntlet because, like I said, if he generally says the schedule is the schedule because we play in the best conference in college football.
Correct.
It is always going to be there. And at the University of Florida and other schools, you don't run from that. Our players aren't running from it. They understand it. They're working extremely hard, and we're ready to open up with Miami. We'll deal with the rest. But the one thing I like that Billy Napier says is we got a lot of grass to mow before we get into some of these games that people are talking about, and it starts the first weekend with Miami. And I think he goes there. But if you continue to dance around things that are obviously negative, I think it paints a different picture, and it makes you look aloof. But if you say we understand, we owned it, we dealt with it, and now it's time to move on because we're in a new season now. And I think that's the best way to do it.
Count the number of practices that Florida has between now and the time they get to those games. 60, 70, some 80 practices before they play some of these teams. A coach told me this a couple of years ago. Players are allowed to get better. Okay. It's okay.
Absolutely.
That's why they practice. That's why they practice. And I'm not buying, the funeral dirges about Florida because of that schedule. Everybody's got a tough schedule. Some guys want to be in the Navy. Some want to be Marines. I think Florida's running to the fight. And
I think Missouri's got an easy schedule. You look at theirs; they cannot. They can go to sleep in 1 games.
But are we really buying how good people think Missouri's? Yeah, they got Luther Burden, but
look at the schedule. Have you seen it?
But I mean, I see the schedule. I understand that, but I just I hear that, but I just didn't see. Unless they got some more people that I missed, I did not see a team. Now, based on the schedule, yes. But talent-wise, and Rob, you can maybe cut me on this, but I did not see a team. I saw a team that played extremely hard for a coach that they really like.
Yeah.
But physically, I think that Missouri has some holes and talent-wise. And I think that's, I know the schedule is set, but I think if you take outside of the schedule, I'm not necessarily buying Missouri.
I hear what you're saying, but I think when you talk about it, you look at it from the standpoint of what's a realistic schedule, and what games you got, and you got a pitcher and a catcher there that these guys are really good. Brady Cook's a really good quarterback, and Luther Burden, as you said, is the best player in the league. So yeah, you could be right. We don't know yet what's going to happen. There's almost nothing known about the SEC at this point in time, except pure speculation. Guys, you were great tonight. Rob, terrific job. Thank you so much, Rob.
Thanks for having me, man. Love being on with y'all.
Rob, is that the state of Tennessee on your shirt or what? I mean, I've been asking before we go. I've been looking at that the whole night. Is that the state of Tennessee? But it looks awful creamsicle. So what? Did you lose the bet? What's going on?
No, Audrey packed all these things. She said our sponsor, one of them, Hewlett and Dunn. They have these SEC shirts. I would be wearing the Florida one tonight appropriately, but we can't get any. They're selling out of them. It's the Gator Chomp.
Oh, okay.
And they've got it at HewlettandDunn.com, one of our sponsors, but we can't get one. So okay. I wore an Ole Miss one yesterday. Okay. I just wear whatever, we got all these SEC, ACC, Big 12, but there's Billy Napier is tomorrow. The Florida media, man, they've got, you just said we can't say anymore, but just convince people, hey, the past is the past. We ain't living out of the rearview mirror. We're looking straight ahead, facing life head on. That's if he convinces people, okay, I'm doing that. Florida's in good shape. Just you can't run. There's nowhere to hide. That's the SEC motto. It just means more, but there's nowhere to run. There's nowhere to hide. Martha and the Vandellas.
Or I'm going to get our shirt for the opening game. So
I'm working on it for all of y'all.
Yeah,
Don't worry.
those would be nice. Those would be tight. Yeah.
All right, there you go. You got it going on.
A
Thanks,
lot of people coming into town for that. It's going to be a fun weekend.
It's going to be kind of a wild weekend.
Yes,
Thanks, Loren. Thanks, Rob.
Thank you, man. Always love it.
Be safe out there, Rob.
All right, same to y'all. We'll see you in the morning.
All right, folks. I want to thank our guests tonight. Good job by everybody, including Rob and earlier Kyle Curtis talking about the EA game, and of course, always the Coach Loren Meadows. Tomorrow night we'll have our some of our cast back. I think we'll have both David and tomorrow Allie tomorrow night. That'd be sweet and sour. So plus I think we'll have a drop in from Rob again from the SEC Media Days. And meanwhile, I want to be sure and tell you folks about a special group of people that I owe a great debt of gratitude to, that they have been supportive of me for a long time. And I really do appreciate the fact that RentStar has been such a good sponsor and friend. RentStar Medical Research in Ocala, they've been around for a while, owned by a couple of really good people who went to high school together. Mary Brantley, wife of Scott and Joe Sorrentino, whose son Joey played for the Gators. They are a terrific business, a terrific stakeholder in downtown Ocala, and they really are working to make our health better. And they're doing it by trying to do research. And the best way they can do that is by having clinical trials. They've had almost 800 of them now. And when they get this data and they send it to biomedical companies, and that's how they design the prescriptions for us in our area so that we can treat the things that are indigenous to us here. So if you want to do a service for yourself and for the people of Marion County and Otway County, et cetera, go to their website and find out more about it, these clinical trials, RentStar Medical Research, rentstar.net, and they'll explain to you how you can get involved. You can sign up for one. If you qualify, you are maybe eligible for time and travel payment, and you could get some investigational drugs that others wouldn't get, other things like that, without any charge to insurance. So check them out, RentStar Medical Research, seeking tomorrow's answers for the health questions of today. Again, thanks to our sponsors, thanks to our guests, and thank you for watching and listening. Back tomorrow night, same time, same place, right here on the Buddy Martin Show.